Jacqueline.
Nice to meet you.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I was reading a little bit about you and your bio and stuff like that, so I'm excited to chat. So tell me a little bit about yourself and your, how you got started on this journey.
So I'm Jacqueline Gomez, and I think Welleum is just a natural evolution of my professional and my personal interests sort of coming together and having a love child. I had always been in growth-oriented health and wellness companies, and so I've spent my career doing that, mainly in things that are on the cusp of what's mainstream and bringing them to mainstream and normalizing them. And then personally, I've always loved yoga and natural health and wellness, and had recently had some personal experiences within my family where Western medicine was just failing us. And you reach a point where you think there has to be something else. I can't just accept life like this, particularly with people you love. And so as I started to investigate those things, I found Eastern medicine had a wealth of options, and the business aspect sort of kicks in, and you think, I cannot be the only one with this problem. And sure enough, after some research, you realize this is a big issue and it's a gap in the market. So that's how Welleum was born.
Oh, I love it. I agree so much, and I think that's what really made me excited to talk to you, is because I myself have gone through some personal like wellness issues, and that's what led me on my own path towards more Eastern medicine, is because I struggled with going to so many doctors and them just saying like, you need to do this medication, or you need this surgery, or you need that. And it was so frustrating that there was never any of these alternatives suggested, and that there's all these other, herbs and things that you can be doing that maybe can complement that, or be what you, or all you need to, bring you into better health. So I know you're disrupting a little bit of the wellness industry, and that's like what I really want to get into the depths of it. Tell me about Welleum and what exactly it is.
It's funny to think about it as disrupting the health and wellness industry, because in the West, we think of it as this new age, newfangled, thing where like we're talking about preventative health care and, comprehensive wellness. And really that's ancient. It's really old. Eastern medicine has been around a really, really long time. And so it's always funny when I hear people think of it as this forward progress, and it is, but it's a little bit going back to basics. And one of the biggest issues, as with most industries, is information. So while I was looking to solve, issues with my daughter's Crohn's, what I found was I had a leg up from running previous healthcare companies. I could read and understand studies and information that was available, but most people are not going to know where to find it or how to read through it, or basically distill it down into something that they can actually use in their life that's actionable. So what we aim to do primarily, first and foremost, is to inform and educate, and hopefully inspire for people that sort of wander or meander their way into our site or our social media. And the way that we do that is we bring together experts from all walks of Eastern medicine, who bring, their own anecdotal evidence and patient advocacy, as well as scientific research. And we try to tie it today to what's relevant. People aren't going to suddenly switch and stop drinking alcohol and, stay at home and be Puritans. So it's really about finding the perfect mix for today's society that brings together both Eastern and Western in a way that people can use in their daily lives.
So are people able to go on to the site and ask questions or do their research? And I know you do have products too.
Yeah. So it's an evolution. Honestly, when COVID hit, we launched before we thought we were going to.
Wow.
We were sitting on this treasure trove of information that was all about immunity and ways to find balance and stay sane and stay happy and healthy. And so we launched ahead of schedule just because we felt almost a duty to. We thought we really need to give people this information. And it was incredibly helpful to do so because we had such an uptake and a resonance with the content that people said, oh, this is great. Where can I find X, Y, and Z? So we would give them the advice, and what we found was there was a disconnect between the ability for them to know what they wanted to do and actually finding products. And so we decided pretty quickly that we were going to have to invest in products and start bringing those So generally people come and they start their journey with us. So they are looking for a specific solution, or they're looking for information, and they come to the site and they start to read, and then they go a little deeper, and then they come back later, and they, it's sort of just the door into the world of Eastern medicine. And we provide a breadth and depth of content that allows them to explore that to their heart's content. And then we provide products to help with the basic things like gut health and sleep and immunity, and others that just help with energy and vitality as well.
I saw all of them, and I feel like each one has their individual purpose. And I think I've kind of been reading up or getting to know a little bit more about gut health. I've always done, probiotics and prebiotics and all of that. And I think those are like right now in the world, they're like the terms that we keep hearing. I don't know if I know even some close friends of mine don't necessarily know exactly what they do, or, they sort of like, yeah, I'm taking a probiotic, and it's very, I don't want to say generic, but something that I think is just getting started as a thing to do. And they're hearing more about, when your gut health is good, the rest of your body can heal or become better or feel better. And not just from a digestive standpoint, but also from, multiple issues. And I think maybe talking a little bit about that would be helpful. Where you've
it's funny. We often in the West we are used to these quick solutions, right? So one of the things that we were talking about now is how people get used to things. We're humans. We just get used to less than ideal ways of life. So digestion, sleep, all those things. If you ask any American, for example, hey, how's your day, or how you been? The de facto answer is always busy. I've been busy. It's been really busy, right? And so it's like, it's the norm that we're used to, which doesn't necessarily mean it's the norm that's good for us. And the same thing happens with our gut health. And it is a factor in almost every aspect of our life. Like if you think about your gut not being able to absorb the nutrients properly, you're not going to get enough vitamin B, and you're going to be lazy, and you're going to feel gross. And everybody's body is different. So the reality is that the goal should be finding balance. And that's what our products aim to do. Unlike other products where you're taking it for a specific digestive symptom, like I'm constipated, so I take this to get rid of that. What our products do are balance the system naturally over time, so that the symptoms stop appearing, rather than hitting the symptom right where it is, but it could come back because you're not fixing the underlying problem. And the funny thing is we see all these like beauty products now where people are, put this topical cream and this and everything under the sun. But the reality is if your gut is not in check, no matter what you put on your skin, if you get a greasy gut, you're not going to get rid of that acne. It's just not going to go away. And so it's really important to do both at the same time.
I love that. I that's the discussion. Like I feel like that needs to grow and continue, because it is amazing how much what goes on internally. And it feels like long term, like it feels like it takes a while. I think everyone thinks like, okay, I'm not, a doctor can give me a pill and it's in a couple days I feel better. Meanwhile, I'm doing this and it feels like it's 6 months, but they don't realize that could be for the rest of your life. You can be better.
Exactly.
Versus a pill that you have to take for the rest of your life.
It's true. It's one of those things where if you think about how quickly the last year of your life flew by, it's just like gone in an instant, right? So it's all relative. And when you think about like, oh, I don't want to take this, and it takes 2 months for it to work, but 2 months to where you slowly, people always ask like, what's it like taking Digestible or digestive supplement? They said, what's it like? Like, how am I going to feel? I said, the best way to explain it is not that you feel amazing. You just notice that the things that used to feel gross are gone. So you just start to, it's almost like, oh yeah, I haven't had this, and oh yeah, I haven't had that. And then before you know it, that becomes your new one.
I love that. That's a good example, because I say that I've done acupuncture for a long time, and that's what people ask me the same thing about acupuncture. And I'm like, I can't really say, like I know I leave relaxed and I feel that, but I don't have this like big grand thing. But I know that each I've been doing it now for a long time, but that's exactly, it keeps me balanced and everything feels good. You have this suddenly, like, all the things that maybe were an issue kind of floated away. So I feel like
It's
that's
also
similar.
true. It's also true because you're paying attention more, and
Yeah.
that's the other thing, right? Is as we're busy and we're Americans and we're multitasking and we have kids and families and work, and you're a lot of times now doing that between four walls,
Yeah.
so it all sort of melds together, and you start to think about things a little bit more. And when you start to do acupuncture and pay attention, you start to notice the differences more clearly. Where most people who fall very ill from some sort of condition say when they look back, they're like, oh, you know what? I had signs. I just wasn't paying attention.
Yes.
And so as soon as you start to pay attention, it's both good and bad. It allows you to react more quickly. But then you also have to be accountable to those decisions. So if you start to notice you feel gross when you're eating things, you sort of have to be accountable to yourself and say, oh, the cheeseburger looks really good, but I know I'm going to feel gross and it affects me in X, Y, and Z.
It's such a good point, because you do have to acknowledge it and the things that you're doing. I think even like emotionally, what you're doing to yourself or what you're willing to put yourself through.
Yeah, stress is a huge, huge problem. And for me personally, I'm like a typical, at least I used to be a typical type A person, where now I'm like a reformed type A, I'm a balanced type A. But what was a game changer for me was seeing my cortisol levels change over time. Like the actual number itself, for some reason, seeing that on paper triggered it for me, because I think we think about stress and poor diet as these things that have a bad long-term effect, but because we don't have any tangible input for it right now, we don't really, we're like, oh, I can deal with that later.
Yeah.
It's when your pants don't fit anymore that you think, okay, I need to go on a diet.
Exactly.
And so I think it's just about trying to find what works for you as far as being accountable and being realistic. Don't think, oh, I'm going to go do a million things and I'm going to live this super healthy life. Just
right. So start small with it. Yeah. Do you think having, like a supplement of some kind is a good place to start with this? Since I think people are so reliant on going to a doctor and getting put on something, maybe a supplement is a better way because it feels more like it's doing something.
So there's twofold. One is that good habits build good habits. And so just by doing something, anything towards a positive trajectory is going to lead to other good decisions, and vice versa, right? Just like if you're around somebody who's in a grumpy mood, likely going to rub off on you. And the second part of that is there are a lot of things we think about medicine in the West as a pill, right?
Yeah.
But the reality is a lot of that came from herbs. And so you can see it on a plant and you think, oh, that's a plant. And you see it in a pill form and you think, oh, that's a medicine. But they're the same thing, oftentimes, right?
Yeah.
And so we think about taking things preventatively, and it's just that one step in the right direction. And I think it's important to do the thing that makes sense for you. Don't do what everyone else is doing. Everyone's doing immunity. I need to do immunity. Like maybe you do, or maybe you have a much bigger problem like your blood pressure or something like that. So let's focus on the things that are actually problematic in your life and get those better, and then you can make incremental changes as you go.
That's such a good tip, because it is, you do think what everyone's doing I need to do, and not necessarily looking at yourself and what you're having an issue with. So the it's 4 products, right, that you currently have, or is it more than that?
Yeah, we have 4 currently. We have Lunawell, which is for sleep and for anxiety. We marketed for sleep, but the reality is there's 2 formulas in that. One that is used in higher dosages for anxiety, particularly, it just helps you sort of chill out. It takes the angst of daily life and brings it down a notch. So that formula is used for sleep. Then we have Digest Well, which, as the name implies, it helps to balance your digestion. We have Ready Well, which is immunity. That has a wide variety of medicinal grade mushrooms in that, as well as some other components that are very helpful for building immunity. And then we have well-rounded, which is essentially, it has a little bit of each of those things. And that one is geared more towards a daily supplement that's going to help you really find balance in all aspects of your life. So think of it more like a daily medication.
So can you combine them? Can you take, like the sleep one and that one, or?
Yeah, you can. Always with any supplement, we always have to tell people, like, you talk to your doctor if you have any concerns, or an herbologist, or some sort of practitioner that's overseeing your care.
Right.
But the reality is that these are herbs. So the components that make up our tinctures are herbs, alcohol, and water, and sometimes honey if it's a truly, truly terribly tasting herb.
That's nice though. I like that.
And everyone should know that, because
I like that.
they're used to taking these things that are palatable. We eat gummies for vitamins now, right? And so you should be aware that they do not taste good. If you could imagine eating, leaves and alcohol, it's not the best combo.
Right.
But what that does is that allows us to take and extract all of the benefits that we want out of the herbs without having to add preservatives or other things like that. It's just a super concentrated formula.
So it's all, so it's just herbs is essentially what's in it, what's in all of them. Wow.
Yeah, there's a process that's called decoction, and it's not a common word, most people know, but it's a formulative process that you use with alcohol that essentially breaks down the herbs into a concentrated tincture that you can take.
So I think this is an interesting topic to get a little bit more, I guess, deeper into. I don't know if anyone really necessarily knows about herbs, or they've kind of heard it and then, they go away from it. And there's a lot of different ones that we hear about. I know you mentioned mushrooms. And I think that's like kind of popping up a little bit more. We keep hearing about them. Explain it a little bit, from a Western to an Eastern kind of side.
It's, once again, we think of mushrooms as a plant, right? We don't think about them as medicine.
Right.
But when you break down things like turkey tail mushroom, for example, or reishi, one of these mushrooms, if you look at them on a scientific molecular basis, their properties and the things that they possess, like, hepatoprotective, which is, good for your liver, or immunoprotective, or basically really healthy for the brain. All of these mushrooms have amazing benefits and properties. And some of these things that we think of as plants or mushrooms or fungus, or just like growing in your yard, the reality is several of the components perform at the same level as medication does.
Wow.
And if you think about taking a mushroom versus taking some compound that you have, the likelihood of side effects or other drug interactions is reduced if you're just taking a mushroom versus other things. And so I think what's happened over time is, in the East, no one cares about why things work. All they care is that they work. And so as those sort of options of mushrooms have moved into the Western world, Westerners don't operate like that. We're like, no, I need to know why it works. Tell me why it works. And so starting about 20 years ago, I would say, really the emphasis on studying all of these things that people in the East have been talking about. They're like, why do people talk about these mushrooms and why they work? You start to realize there's actual legitimacy to them. And so now Westerners are starting to pay attention more. And they're like, oh, okay, it's not just, mumbo jumbo. There's real medicine behind this here. And
it's funny because we don't question getting a pill and what's in that and what that can do, but yet, like, suddenly something from nature thousands of years old that's being recommended, it's like, why? What does it do? Is there side effect? You get all these questions, and I even laugh at myself for that, because I'm like, it's so funny how you'll like ask all these things and want to know so much about it, but then like something else that nothing about, it's maybe man-made, and you're just like, okay, I'll try it.
I will say that there is reason to ask. I think everyone is aware that the last couple of years there was stuff being sold on Amazon, and frankly, it's still par for the course for most companies, which is why we created our own. Because as we created the content, we knew we needed to start selling products to help people along in their journey. What we found was that there were no products that we could honestly feel good about selling.
Wow.
We had put so much effort into the work of the content to make sure it was true and accurate and useful, that to sell products that we had no idea where they came from or the quality of the herbs or just any of the information that you would want to have as a consumer didn't exist. And so that's why we created ours from scratch. So we grow everything that we can in California, whatever the climate and the season allows. And everything else we acquire from a top quality herb supplier. So best in class. It's expensive, but it's the thing where, you know, they're testing these. They're looking for herbs, pesticides, heavy metals, the things that get people in trouble that are pervasive in the rest of the industry. And so we do batch level testing and batch level tracing, which is unheard of in the industry. But we thought, you know, this could be our kid or our grandmother or somebody taking this, and so we need to feel good about it.
Yeah. And you don't want to take away from that, from something so clean and natural, and then for there to be heavy metals or anything like that. It's like defeating the purpose. So
yeah, and I think that was the issue that came up, and maybe that's why Westerners are a little bit more skeptical about supplements in the last couple of years, because there were several instances of people either making false claims, or in probiotics, for example, the temperature is extremely important at which you store a probiotic. Most people don't know that.
Yeah.
And so they just put their probiotic in any temperature, which makes it ineffective for the most cases. Or other supplements, you know, they did some randomized testing and they find one bottle had 10x the potency that you actually could take, and other had like 1/10 of the potency. And so there was just this inconsistency. And so I think that that's prompted people to start asking the questions about what am I taking, particularly in the beauty industry. People are starting to really pay attention about what goes on their skin.
That is where I'm seeing it a lot, is the beauty side of things. I do a lot of work at that, and I do see that that's where a lot of questions are coming up. I like the supplement side of things because I think it can help in so many more ways, and you know, that beauty from within and feeling youthful, because I know that's a big thing that always comes up for people is, you know, I want my skin to look healthier. I want it to have a glow. And this to me is the way to do that faster than any topical thing you can put on your skin, is to work internally. Do you have one that you would say is a go-to for something like that you would recommend?
I think you mean as far as like what you would take for external feeling. Yeah, I think, you know, honestly, if we think about the biggest, most impactful things are the cliche things that everyone knows and no one does. Getting 8 hours of sleep makes your life better. Your brain fires quicker, you feel better, your energy is better. That's just reality. Water intake, like this super, super simple thing. I think the studies say something like 60 to 80% of Americans are chronically dehydrated. That's a massive amount of portion. If you think about women in general, the issues that they have, dark circles. I'm like very fair skinned, so forget it. Like it's ridiculous. I have to use so much concealer because you just see veins and it just looks like someone punched me in the face. But the reality is that that is a direct result of low moisture, because you're just, you know, if you think about something that's wet, it sort of plumps up. Something that's dry just thins out. And so when that skin, particularly as we age, starts to thin out, you start noticing dark circles. So if you can get your sleep right and you can get your gut right, even if you don't have the perfect diet, if you can just get some sort of balance instead of everything being like this, you're going to notice impacts in absolutely every aspect of your life without fail.
So the sleep supplement would probably be something good just to get you on track with that at least. And
yeah, pick an avenue. Like I said, don't try to do everything at once, because it takes a while to build good habits. And so I think the key in Eastern medicine, there are very strict protocols about regimen and having a body clock and having a schedule. And the reality is that humans perform better having a schedule. And so if you think about all the hours in a day And Eastern medicine will tell you, well, your liver performs best at this time. And in Western medicine, we see things like that as well, where there's a certain time of day where your blood pressure is the lowest. And there's a reason for that, right? Your body can be act like a machine. And so the better off that you can get a schedule going, your body starts to act more like a machine. It knows when to do things rather than adjusting to your every whim. And so if you can start with sleep and get sleep really good and get into that schedule, the other things will adjust in place as well. If you're sleeping at the same time, guess what? You're probably going to start eating at the same time. Because you're waking up around the same time and hunger kicks in. And then as you eat, you're going to work your exercise and your work routine around that, because you're not going to go to the gym if you've just eaten. And so it's like the little decision that you make towards the right direction, everything else starts to fall into place.
That makes so much sense. And I never thought about it that way. That it's like you don't have to worry about working on all of those if you get one really done really well. It does sort of fall into place naturally almost.
Yeah, and it's the same thing too with like even your diet, right? If I'm a big hot yogi person, at least pre-COVID I was, but I love spicy Asian food, like spicy Asian food. And I know that it's not great for me, right? But I would still eat it. Now, the next day, if I went into a hot yoga class, you would literally smell it coming out of my pores and my sweat.
That's crazy.
And it was like this instant reminder that we are what we eat. And while I enjoyed it last night, I certainly don't enjoy the smell today. And, it's like, the little things that you start making better decisions as you pay attention to things.
I love that. I think that that's so great. I mean, I'm so happy that there's more awareness around all of this. And I do feel like, I know when I first found out about your site, it's like the new WebMD. And I do kind of feel like there needs to be that, because we are all quick to go to our computers to research and find something out about whatever's going on with us. And there hasn't been a place to go to get that other side, that more natural Eastern side. And I know I'm happy for that, because I feel like I'm tired of getting all the answer, the very generic answers to something. And I'm ready for a change and a place to go and people to talk to that do know about this from a different perspective and can give that advice.
Even in Eastern medicine, it's pretty disparate though. I mean, you go to an acupuncturist, right? Have you gone to your acupuncturist? Have they ever recommended herbs to you?
It was like, I just recently heard about herbs, and it was.
That's the thing.
Yeah.
It's even within the industry in Eastern medicine, you have specialists. And while all of Eastern medicine is predicated on integrated solutions, practitioners are very vertically integrated into their one area of expertise.
Yeah.
So an acupuncturist may be like, oh, you should get some herbs.
Yeah.
But that's not most of them are not double licensed. And so they'll tell you that, but then it's on you to go and find that next step. And it's a big empty world. And if you start to go to Google, it's actually kind of frightening, because you inevitably find some guy with like a snake around his neck and he's like holding a mushroom, like licking it. It's always something very obscure and weird. And you're like, I don't know if I want to know anymore.
It's so true. Or you're like, does that really work? Is that like something that's not going to be good? Just, it's such a challenge. And I think that's where, if you're not really into it, you give up, or you spend months searching for a solution to something that's going on. I know when you're really struggling with something, like for me, myself, when I was really struggling, I had notebooks full of stuff and like supplements and things to take. And I was all over the place, and I was trying everything. And it would have been nice to have somewhere to go to say like, okay, this is what's going on. What are some steps that I could just start with, like, where do I go? And at least then it would lead you on a path to like, try this, try that, rather than being just like Googling your health and wondering, it being the experiment. So
that's how we sort of formulated the content as well, and how we think about pulling people into the funnel of Eastern medicine. We think about things like entry points. Like, when do people enter Eastern medicine? either they had some sort of familial tie or culturally it was more familiar to them. And it's not even just Eastern medicine. You know, you have jungle medicine, indigenous medicine.
Mm.
All of those things, frankly, are the same thing with minor derivatives. The reality is that jungle medicine was jungle medicine because people lived in the jungle, and they worked with the plants that they had around them. And you know, if you look at what jungle medicine in Costa Rica uses, for example, versus what Eastern medicine uses, the practices are quite similar. It's just they use what they had around. They didn't have the same trees,
right,
and things like that. But yeah, I think as time goes on and you think about how people are coming in, you've got infertility issues, autoimmune issues, gut issues, IBS, IBD, Crohn's, how I got into it with my daughter. And you have all of these entry points where people are just frustrated.
Yeah.
They're just tired, especially for chronic conditions where every day, if you are dealing with something, you're reminded that it's not ideal and it's not the life you want to live. And you can't just give up. You can't just say, I accept this new norm of life. It's too big of a pill to swallow.
Yeah, it's so true. That is exactly what it is, I think, and the reason why people end up finding that path. And I'm glad that you're opening that space more to people and giving them a place to go and some solutions as well. Can you let everyone know how to find you, like where to go for social, where to find you for these herbs, for more information?
We're everywhere. We are Welleum.com, WELLEUM.com. There you can find information about products and all sorts of topics, including an in-depth herb repository information. So there isn't a source in the West that sort of deduces Western medications with Eastern medications. So there's a lot of interactions that occur because people don't know what they can take with what. Western medicine will say, take this with this, but it doesn't tell you about what herbs you're taking.
Right.
So come to the website and find all sorts of information. We are on Amazon. We are on Instagram, Pinterest, YouTube, everything, you name it. We come out with video content quite regularly, usually 3 times a week, something like that. So
is that on the website? The video content?
It's mainly on the social channels, though we do upload it to the website as well.
Okay.
But Pinterest, YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok.
Oh, really? I have to find. Yeah, I love that.
Yeah, because you know what it is that this younger demographic in particular, and I think TikTok has expanded in the last year.
Yeah.
Younger demographic is not accepting the status quo.
No.
They are asking the question like, why? Why would I do that? And we're like, all right, cool. Well, we want to tell you.
Yeah. I love that. I'm going to find you on there because I actually have been using it a lot. And I think it's such a good place for information. I mean, you have to weed through some stuff, but I do think when you find, someone like you on there, it's so useful. And it's a good way to get that quick information. Yeah.
Bite-sized pieces of information. I know people used to laugh at me when I was on TikTok. At first, I was only on it because I was spying on my children.
Right.
And then I was like, wait a minute, how did no one like this? Yeah, the algorithms are a little frighteningly accurate, but it's useful information. So I just keep doing it.
Oh, I love that. Thank you so much, Jacqueline, for this. It was such a good conversation. I would love to actually continue it because I think there's some more depth we probably could go into on specific subjects and, for individuals that want to work on something more specific. So we'll have to do that. Yeah. Awesome. Thank you so much. Hope you have a good rest of the day. I'll talk to you soon.
Thanks. I enjoy you too.
Bye.